The stars of the Fox Empire shined like quiet lanterns across the dark sky. Their light was soft and calm, showing a land filled with long history and proud traditions. The people of this empire were known for their beauty and grace. They had soft fur, long tails, and elegant wings that shimmered when they caught the light. They lived high in tall crystal towers that touched the clouds. They sang ancient songs about strength and honor. They believed wings were not only for flight. Wings were a symbol of hope, balance, and leadership. At the center of this mighty empire lived the Fox Empress. She was calm, wise, and respected by all. Her wings were strong and wide. When she flew, the sky itself seemed to follow her. She had guided her people through many challenges. She had kept peace with nearby star nations. Every citizen trusted her judgment. Yet even great leaders carried quiet fears in their hearts. The Empress carried a fear hidden from most. That fear was connected to her only child, Princess Leora. Princess Leora was born on a bright morning when the sky was painted with soft colors. The empire celebrated her birth for many days. Songs were sung. Gifts were offered. Elders said she would become a strong leader. But joy soon turned into silence when the royal healers studied the young princess. Her wings were different. They were soft and beautiful, but they were not strong enough to lift her. No matter how the healers tried, her wings could not support her weight. Every test showed the same result. The wings were fragile and would not open fully. The royal court fell into quiet worry because the daughter of the empress was expected to fly before the age of 6. It was a tradition older than the empire itself. But Leora could not fly. As the princess grew older, she saw other young fox children learning to glide in open fields. She saw them cheering as they lifted themselves into the air. She watched with a small smile, but it always faded after a few moments. She tried to lift herself many times, but her wings would shake and fold. The healers gathered around her again and again. They tried strange machines, gentle energy waves, and special herbs. They tried everything their knowledge allowed. Each time the result stayed the same. Her wings did not change. The empire loved the empress, but whispers began to spread. Some said the princess would never take the throne. Others said she should stay hidden so she would not bring sadness to the empire. The empress heard these whispers. They did not make her angry. They only made her heart heavy. She believed her daughter had value even without wings. But the empress also knew her people lived by tradition. They believed a leader must fly. The empress tried to show strength, but every night she stood by Leora's window and watched her daughter sleep. She wondered how she could protect her from the weight of expectations. Princess Leora tried to stay cheerful. She liked reading stories. She liked walking in the royal gardens. She liked touching the flowers that sparkled with morning dew. But as she grew older, she began to avoid open balconies because they reminded her of what she could not do. She avoided training fields where young foxes practiced their flight. She avoided celebrations because there was always a moment when people looked up at the sky. Leora wanted to be part of those moments. She wanted to feel the wind under her wings. She wanted to fly beside her mother with pride. But she knew her wings were weak and she no longer hoped for change. The empress called her council one night and asked for new ideas. The room was filled with soft light. Elder engineers, healers, and scholars gathered around a large glowing table. They showed the empress every chart and report. They spoke with calm voices. They said the same thing they had said for years. The wings of the princess could not be fixed with their methods. The damage was part of her birth. Nothing inside their empire could repair it. Many encouraged the empress to accept the truth. Some even suggested Leora should take another role in the empire. The empress stayed silent. She felt frustration build inside her, but she hid it behind her calm expression. After the meeting ended, the empress sat alone. She knew there was still one path left. She had seen the creativity of humans during her travels. Humans were known for strange inventions and stubborn minds. They were small compared to many alien races, but they surprised others with ideas that should not work but somehow did. The Empress decided to seek help from them. It was a bold choice. Some in the Empire believed humans were too simple or chaotic. But the Empress trusted what she had witnessed. Humans did not fear failure. They tried again and again until something worked. Soon the royal ship sent messages to nearby human colonies. They asked for someone with skill in both engineering and biology. They asked for someone who was not afraid of a difficult task. After weeks of waiting, the Empress received a message from a human engineer named Evan Hale. He was known for repairing damaged alien structures. He was known for his calm behavior and steady focus. Most of all, he was known for never giving up once he started something. Evan agreed to come to the Fox Empire. Many in the court did not like the idea. They said humans did not understand their ways. They said humans could not solve something their own experts had failed to solve. But the Empress gave a clear order. Evan would be welcomed. He would study the princess and try whatever he believed might help. She hoped it would bring a small change. She did not expect a miracle. She only wanted one more chance for her daughter. When Evan Hale arrived, he walked into the palace with curious eyes. He had short dark hair and a calm face. His clothes were simple, far different from the elegant robes of the Fox Empire. But his steps were confident. He had seen many different worlds and felt comfortable in new places. The guards watched him with interest. Some whispered. A few shook their heads. They expected little from him. They thought he would study the princess for a few days and then leave like everyone else. The Empress greeted Evan politely and guided him through bright halls lined with shining crystals. The palace looked like a place shaped from starlight. Evan admired the beauty, but he did not seem overwhelmed. He listened to the Empress speak about her daughter. He asked careful questions. He showed no sign of doubt. He said he would do his best. His voice was steady and respectful. Finally, they reached the quiet chamber where Princess Leora waited. She sat near a window, watching the sky with calm eyes. Her soft fur glowed in the warm light. Her wings rested against her back. They were delicate and lovely, but thin and weak. When she turned and saw Evan, she stood politely. She had met many healers before and expected the same routine. She assumed he would observe her wings and then give a polite apology. Evan walked closer and bowed slightly. He studied her wings with gentle eyes, not with pity but with interest. He asked if he could examine them. Leora nodded. Evan ran his hand near the surface of the wings without pressure. He noticed the structure. He saw how the joints moved. He asked a few simple questions. Leora answered in a quiet voice. She expected him to shake his head soon. But Evan did not shake his head. He did not sigh or look sad. He smiled with calm confidence. He told her he would try many things. He said he could not promise success, but he would not give up. Leora blinked in surprise. She had heard many promises before, but this one felt different. Evan did not speak like someone who would stop if things became hard. He spoke like someone who enjoyed challenges. The Empress watched this exchange. It was the first time she had seen someone look at her daughter without disappointment. Evan thanked both of them and stepped back. He asked for a workspace and access to old reports. He said he needed time to study everything before he made a plan. The Empress agreed and commanded the court to support him fully. When Evan left the room, Leora looked at her mother. She felt confused. She wanted to hope, but she had lost hope too many times before. The Empress placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. She told Leora that humans had a strange gift. They believed anything could be fixed with effort. She said that even if this human could not fix her wings, he might give her a new way to see herself. Leora nodded. She did not know what the future would bring. But she felt a small spark inside her chest. She had kept her heart closed for years. Now something was opening. Something warm. Something alive. Evan walked through the palace with firm steps. He was ready to begin a challenge that no one had solved. He felt excitement. He felt determination. He believed that a broken wing was not the end. It was only the start of a new design. He believed that he could help the princess. He believed that no problem was impossible if he kept trying. And so the journey began. The Empire watched with mixed hope and doubt. Leora waited with quiet curiosity. The Empress held her breath in silence. Evan prepared his tools. The sky of the Fox Empire waited for a change. A change that would soon rewrite the story of a princess who had fallen and a human who refused to let her stay down. Evan Hale began his work early the next morning. The sun had not yet reached the high towers of the palace, but he was already in the workshop that the Empress had prepared for him. The room was filled with soft light that reflected from glass tables and shining tools. Strange machines lined the walls, some of them old and some of them brand new. Evan studied each carefully. He wanted to understand everything the Empire had tried before. He wanted to see every attempt that had failed. Each report, each note, and each diagram told him a story. A story of patience, intelligence, and care, but also a story of failure. Evan did not feel discouraged. He felt excitement. Challenges like this were rare and valuable. Princess Leora watched him from a distance at first. She remained in her quiet corner, her wings folded against her back. Her soft golden fur glimmered in the morning light. She had learned not to hope too much. Every healer or engineer who had tried before had left disappointment behind. She expected Evan to fail like the others. Yet something about him was different. He moved slowly and carefully. He spoke quietly to himself as he worked. His eyes followed each detail. He did not rush. He did not make her feel weak. Instead, he seemed curious, as if he wanted to understand the wings, not judge them. Leora's heart stirred with a feeling she had not felt in a long time. It was hope. Evan called her to the workshop that afternoon. He smiled gently as she entered. She stepped inside with caution. Her wings shook slightly, but she did not hide them. She had learned that hiding brought no change. Evan examined her wings again, carefully touching the joints and moving the feathers softly. He noticed small imperfections, tiny cracks in the delicate structure. He spoke in calm tones, explaining what he saw. He spoke of energy flow, muscle patterns, and structural balance. Leora listened. She did not understand every word, but she felt the respect in his voice. She felt no fear. She felt only curiosity. She realized that for the first time, someone was treating her wings as something capable, not broken. Evan began drawing plans on a transparent screen. Lines and shapes moved as he spoke. He explained how he would combine human engineering with the natural structure of her wings. He said he would create a support system that would work with her muscles and bones. He explained that it would not be magic. It would be careful design, patience, and testing. He told her that she must practice gently. He said that success would not come at once. Leora felt both excitement and fear. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to feel the wind under her wings. Yet she remembered the many failures before. Evan asked her to try small exercises. She stretched her wings slowly. He guided her hands and legs to maintain balance. He encouraged her to move slowly and carefully. Every movement was precise. He watched every detail and gave calm instructions. At first, Leora could not lift herself. She tried a small jump, and her wings shook. She fell lightly onto a soft mat. She expected Evan to frown or to show disappointment. Instead, he smiled. He told her that this was the first step. He told her that even humans fell many times before they succeeded. Leora felt something warm in her chest. She realized that someone was not giving up on her. Someone believed she could fly. Days passed, and Evan worked tirelessly. He studied her wings, measured every joint, and tested his devices. He built small machines to help her practice. The palace engineers watched him and whispered among themselves. Some doubted him. They said a human could not understand their delicate biology. Some laughed quietly, saying it was impossible. But Evan continued. He never argued. He never complained. He only worked. He believed that persistence would succeed where doubt had failed. Leora began to trust him more with each passing day. She watched him adjust tiny machines and read complex reports. She noticed how carefully he treated her wings. He never pushed too hard. He never rushed. He never expected her to succeed immediately. He only expected her to try. Slowly, she began small lifts with the support of his machines. She felt the gentle wind under her wings. She felt the pull of her muscles and the push of her energy. Each small lift was a victory. Each small movement was proof that she could grow stronger. She began to smile more often, and she began to speak more to Evan. She asked questions about the humans, about the stars, and about his home. He answered patiently, sharing small stories and lessons. She listened with fascination. The world felt larger than before. The Empress watched quietly from a distance. She noticed the changes in her daughter. Leora seemed lighter in spirit. Her movements became more confident. She even laughed quietly when a machine made a funny noise. The Empress felt hope grow in her heart. She realized that it was not just the wings that were changing. Leora was learning to believe in herself again. She was learning patience, courage, and trust. The Empress felt pride and relief. Perhaps the human had done more than repair the wings. Perhaps he was helping her daughter find strength that had always been inside her. Evan began creating a special device for the princess. It was small, lightweight, and flexible. It was designed to support her wings while allowing her to practice natural movements. He explained each part carefully to Leora. He showed her how it would help her lift and glide. He told her that she must learn to work with the device, not depend on it. She nodded. She understood that success would come only with her effort. She felt excitement mixed with nervousness. She wanted to try it immediately. Evan allowed her to practice slowly, guiding her movements and adjusting the device when necessary. Each day, her lifts became slightly higher. Each day, her confidence grew. The palace engineers continued to watch him. Some began to admire his methods. They saw his patience, his careful observations, and his respect for the princess. They noticed that Leora was responding to his work in a way she had not responded to any other healer or engineer. Slowly, whispers of respect replaced whispers of doubt. Some even offered to help him, bringing supplies and suggestions. Evan accepted their help but maintained his own methods. He listened to the suggestions but followed his careful plan. He explained that careful steps were better than rushed fixes. The engineers began to see the value of persistence and patience, the human way of solving problems. One evening, Leora asked Evan about the stars. She wanted to know why humans love to travel and explore. He told her stories of distant planets, strange creatures, and challenges that humans had faced. He explained how humans often failed but learned from their mistakes. Leora listened with wide eyes. She realized that humans had strength not from magic or wings, but from persistence, curiosity, and courage. She felt a connection with Evan. She began to believe that her own strength could grow, even if her wings had seemed weak for so long. The Empress noticed the bond forming between them. She felt a deep sense of relief. She realized that her daughter was learning not only to lift her wings but also to trust someone outside her world. Leora had learned patience, courage, and friendship. The Empress knew that the human had taught her daughter an important lesson: strength could come in many forms, and help could come from unexpected places. Evan continued to improve the device. He tested every joint, every muscle, and every movement. He created exercises to help Leora strengthen her wings gradually. He encouraged her to focus on balance, energy, and control. Leora practiced daily. She sometimes fell. She sometimes felt tired or frustrated. But Evan was always there, calm and patient. He reminded her that each attempt was progress. Each small lift was a victory. He told her that failure was not the end. It was part of learning. As the days turned into weeks, the first signs of real improvement appeared. Leora could lift herself slightly off the ground without support. Her wings began to move with more strength and control. She felt the wind under her feathers and heard the soft sound of air passing through them. She smiled with delight. For the first time in her life, she felt the joy of flying, even if it was only a small lift. The palace staff noticed the change. They whispered in amazement. Some came forward to offer encouragement. Leora felt proud but also calm. She knew that her success was not just from the machine. It was from her effort, persistence, and belief in herself. The human engineer, Evan Hale, looked at her with quiet satisfaction. He did not boast. He did not claim credit. He only observed her growing strength with gentle pride. He knew that the princess had always had the ability to rise. She had only needed guidance, patience, and a partner who refused to give up. Evan understood that the greatest tool he had provided was not the device but the gift of belief. He had helped her see that she could overcome challenges if she continued to try. The Empress stood nearby, watching her daughter lift her wings. She felt a deep sense of peace. Her daughter was learning courage and strength. She was learning to trust, to hope, and to fight for her dreams. The Empress realized that sometimes the greatest help came from someone outside the empire, someone who saw potential where others saw weakness. She smiled quietly. The Fox Empire had always been strong, but now it had learned something new. Even a human could teach them lessons about persistence, courage, and hope. Princess Leora looked at Evan and smiled. She felt grateful for his patience and kindness. She realized that even if her wings had seemed weak, she could grow stronger. She could rise again. She could challenge expectations and show her people that strength came in many forms. She felt hope bloom in her chest. For the first time, she believed that she could fly not only in the sky but in life itself. Evan smiled quietly at her. He knew that the journey was only beginning. There would be more challenges. There would be days of doubt, days of fatigue, and moments of fear. But he also knew that the princess had something far greater than wings alone. She had courage, persistence, and belief in herself. And with these, he knew that nothing was impossible. And so, the story of a fallen princess and a stubborn human continued. Each day brought new lessons, new small victories, and new hope. The Fox Empire watched quietly, unsure of what the future held, but slowly beginning to believe. Leora practiced with calm determination. Evan guided her with patience. The sky above the empire waited, ready to witness a story of courage, effort, and the promise of flight. A story that would change the empire and teach them all that even the weakest wings could rise with the right guidance and heart. The morning sun bathed the palace in warm light as Princess Leora stepped into the training hall. Her wings were still folded neatly behind her, but today they felt different. Today, she had a purpose. Today, she would attempt her first real lift. The hall was large and open, with high ceilings and soft mats covering the floor. Light reflected from the crystal walls, casting gentle colors on everything inside. Leora's heart beat faster than usual. She had practiced for weeks under Evan's careful guidance. She had grown stronger. She had learned patience and control. But this was the first time she would try to lift herself fully without relying on support machines. Evan Hale stood nearby, watching quietly. His calm eyes followed her every movement. He had prepared a special support device, light and flexible, designed to help her wings lift naturally. It was the result of weeks of study, design, and careful testing. He had adjusted every joint, every strap, and every balance point. He knew that the first attempt might not be perfect, but he also knew that the attempt itself would be the beginning. He smiled gently at Leora and nodded. She took a deep breath and nodded back. The air in the hall seemed still and expectant. Leora bent her knees slightly, feeling the strength in her legs. She extended her wings slowly, testing the muscles and the device. Her feathers brushed against each other, and she felt the soft wind move across them. She remembered Evan's words. Trust your wings. Feel the air. Every small lift is progress. She closed her eyes for a moment and focused on the rhythm of her breath. Then, with careful determination, she jumped. The first lift was small. Her wings spread wide, and for a brief moment, she felt herself rising above the mats. Her heart soared with a mixture of fear and joy. But gravity was strong. She tilted slightly and fell gently onto the soft mats below. She expected disappointment to follow. She expected to hear whispers of failure. Instead, Evan clapped softly. He walked over and helped her up, adjusting the device slightly. He smiled. That was perfect. You lifted yourself. That is the first step. Leora blinked in surprise. She had expected anger or frustration. She realized that the joy of progress. In the afternoon, Evan introduced a new exercise. He guided Leora to glide from a small elevated platform. The platform was not high, but it allowed her to experience the feeling of descending while controlling her wings. She jumped carefully, extending her wings fully. She felt the air supporting her, lifting her gently. She glided across the hall and landed smoothly on the mats. She laughed with delight. She felt her heart soar with joy. This small success gave her a sense of freedom she had never known. She felt that her wings were no longer weak but capable. The Empress watched silently, her eyes reflecting pride and relief. She realized that the human had given her daughter more than physical strength. He had given her belief in herself. Leora had learned to trust her wings, to trust her own courage, and to trust that failure was not the end. The palace had witnessed the power of patience, persistence, and guidance. Even the engineers who had doubted Evan's methods could not deny the results. Leora was improving. She was learning. She was rising. As the day drew to a close, Leora sat quietly in the corner of the hall. Her wings rested against her back, tired but strong. Evan approached and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Today was a great success, he said softly. Remember, every lift, every glide, is progress. You are learning to fly, and that is a gift. Leora nodded. She felt warmth in her chest. She realized that Evan's presence had changed her world. She had learned that persistence and belief could create miracles. She had learned that even if others gave up, someone might not. She had learned to trust again. Evan continued to work late into the evening. He studied the data from the day's practice, adjusted the device slightly, and planned exercises for the next session. Leora observed him, fascinated by his dedication. She realized that he never gave up, never rushed, and never lost faith in the possibility of success. She began to see that her own courage and persistence could grow if guided by patience and support. She understood that true strength came not only from wings but from effort, trust, and determination. The Empress stood nearby, watching quietly. She felt hope grow within her heart. Her daughter was learning to rise. She was learning courage, patience, and trust. The human had shown them all that even the impossible could become possible with effort and care. The palace felt lighter, filled with the promise of progress and achievement. Before leaving the hall, Evan reminded Leora to rest and reflect. Strength grows when you rest as well as when you train. Every small lift today will help you tomorrow, he said. Leora smiled and nodded. She felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had learned that failure was not final, that patience could turn weakness into strength, and that hope could grow even in difficult times. As night fell, the Fox Empire's towers glowed softly under the stars. Princess Leora lay in her room, thinking of the day's practice. She remembered the lifts, the glides, and the gentle guidance of Evan. She felt her wings resting against her back, stronger than before. She felt a small spark of excitement for tomorrow, for the next attempt, for the chance to rise higher. She realized that the journey to flight was not just about the body but about courage, belief, and persistence. Evan returned to his quarters, quietly reviewing the day's data. He felt calm satisfaction. He knew that success would come slowly, but he also knew that Leora was capable of achieving it. He had seen the spark of determination in her eyes, and he understood that with guidance, patience, and effort, she would rise. The first lift had been achieved, and the first step toward flight had been taken. The human had kept his promise, and the princess had begun her journey to soar. The night was calm. Stars shone above the palace. The Empire slept, unaware of the small victories in the training hall. Yet the change had begun. Princess Leora had lifted herself for the first time. She had felt the wind under her wings. She had begun to trust in her strength. And the stubborn human, who refused to give up, had opened a door to a new future. The story of hope, persistence, and flight continued. Tomorrow, the sun would rise again. Leora would try again. Evan would guide her. And the Fox Empire would witness the slow but steady rise of a princess who refused to accept limits and a human who believed that even the impossible could be achieved. The morning sun rose slowly over the Fox Empire, spilling golden light across the crystal towers. Princess Leora stood at the edge of the palace training platform, her wings extended fully. They were stronger now, guided by the careful support device Evan had designed. Each feather glimmered in the light, and the air around her seemed to hum with potential. Today was different. Today, the goal was not only to lift herself but to glide across the training hall without hesitation. Leora felt excitement mixed with nervousness. She remembered the small successes of previous days, the gentle guidance of Evan, and the steady encouragement from the Empress. She knew that today could mark a real turning point. Evan Hale stood nearby, watching her movements. His eyes were calm, but they sparkled with quiet anticipation. He had spent weeks preparing the device for this moment. Every adjustment, every test, every calculation had led to this day. He spoke softly to Leora. Focus on the rhythm of your wings. Feel the air supporting you. Trust yourself. Trust your wings. Leora nodded. She had listened to his advice many times, but today it carried new weight. She felt ready to trust herself fully. With a deep breath, Leora bent her knees and jumped from the platform. Her wings caught the air immediately. She rose higher than ever before. The mats below seemed far away, and for the first time, she felt true freedom. The palace engineers who had gathered to observe gasped in quiet amazement. Some whispered to each other. Others smiled broadly. The lifts, once small and hesitant, now carried her with smooth control. She flapped her wings gently, feeling the balance of wind and gravity. She glided forward, steady and precise, landing lightly on the mats at the far end of the hall. A cheer rose from the watching engineers. Leora felt a thrill she had never known. She turned to Evan, who nodded approvingly. Excellent, he said softly. You controlled your lift perfectly. Every small movement was precise. You are learning to fly, not just to rise, but to glide with balance. She felt a warm pride grow inside her. She realized that flight was not only about wings. It was about control, courage, and patience. Each glide was proof of her effort and determination. The Empress entered the hall quietly, her eyes wide with wonder. She had watched her daughter struggle for years, seeing hopes rise and fall. Today, she saw a different Leora. Confident, calm, and determined, she moved with grace and skill. The Empress felt a deep sense of relief. She approached her daughter and spoke softly. "You are rising, my child. You are learning what others thought impossible. I am proud of you." Leora smiled. She had always longed for her mother's pride, and now she felt it fully. Word of Leora's progress began to spread through the palace and the empire. Citizens who had once doubted her began to gather near the palace gates, hoping to catch a glimpse of the princess who had never flown. Whispered conversations turned into excitement. Engineers, teachers, and nobles all spoke in admiration of the human who had worked tirelessly alongside Leora. Some had doubted Evan's methods, but now even the skeptics began to see the results. The idea that she could rise and glide through the air began to fill hearts with hope. Evan worked patiently beside Leora, preparing new exercises. He had noticed subtle weaknesses in her wings and taught her how to strengthen them further. Each exercise focused on balance, muscle control, and the natural flow of air across her feathers. He guided her with quiet patience, correcting small movements and praising even minor improvements. Leora absorbed every lesson eagerly. She began to notice how her wings responded more easily, how her muscles felt stronger, and how her glides grew longer. Each success gave her courage to try more. During a break in training, Leora walked along the palace gardens with Evan. The gardens were filled with flowers that shimmered in the morning sun and fountains that sang gentle songs. Leora spoke quietly, asking him questions about humans, about their worlds, and about the challenges they faced. Evan shared stories of distant planets, daring missions, and moments of failure that led to success. Leora listened with fascination. She realized that humans did not have magic or wings, yet they could achieve great things through persistence, creativity, and courage. She began to understand that her own strength could grow in the same way. The Empress observed them from a distance. She felt admiration for the human who had taught her daughter not only to lift her wings but to believe in herself. She realized that sometimes the greatest teachers came from unexpected places. The palace engineers who had watched Evan closely began to discuss his methods in quiet tones. Many admitted that his careful observation, patience, and dedication were something they had never seen before. Even the skeptics could not deny the progress Leora had made. As the days passed, Leora's lifts became higher and her glides longer. She practiced repeatedly under Evan's careful guidance. She began to fly across the training hall with confidence, landing softly and smoothly each time. The palace gathered more frequently to watch her practice. Citizens who had once doubted her ability now cheered in quiet admiration. Leora felt a sense of pride and responsibility. She understood that her success could inspire her people. She wanted to show them that perseverance and courage could overcome limitations. One afternoon, Evan introduced a new challenge. He guided Leora to a higher platform at the edge of the training hall. The platform was taller than she had ever attempted, and the distance to the mats below was greater. He explained that this exercise would test her strength, control, and confidence. Leora felt nervous but determined. She stepped to the edge of the platform, her wings extended fully. She felt the wind move across her feathers. She took a deep breath and jumped. This time, her wings carried her smoothly through the air. She glided across the hall with perfect balance, turning slightly to adjust her direction and landing softly on the mats below. The engineers and citizens watching erupted into cheers. Leora felt a surge of joy and accomplishment. She realized that her wings were no longer weak. They were capable. They were strong. And she was capable of guiding them with skill and determination. The Empress approached Leora and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You are becoming a true leader, my child. You have learned patience, courage, and skill. You have shown that even when others give up, determination can bring success." Leora smiled. She felt warmth and pride. She realized that flight was not only about the body but about the heart. She had learned that strength could grow from effort, belief, and trust. Evan watched quietly, satisfied but focused. He knew that Leora still had more to learn. The journey to full flight was not complete. There would be higher lifts, longer glides, and new challenges. But he also knew that the princess had grown stronger than he had ever expected. She had embraced patience, courage, and trust. She had learned to lift herself not only with her wings but with her spirit. The next day, the palace announced a public demonstration of Leora's progress. Citizens from across the empire gathered near the palace to witness the princess who had once been unable to lift her wings. Word had spread quickly. People brought banners and gifts, hoping to see her fly. The empress watched with quiet pride, surrounded by her advisors and engineers. She realized that Leora's journey was not only about personal strength but about inspiring the empire. Hope was spreading, and the people began to believe that even the impossible could be achieved. Leora stood on the platform, her wings extended and the wind brushing against her feathers. She looked at Evan, who gave a small nod of encouragement. She felt calm but determined. She knew that today she would glide across the open sky for all to see. She jumped, feeling the wind lift her. She controlled her wings carefully, gliding smoothly and confidently. The crowd gasped in amazement. She adjusted her direction with skill, moving gracefully across the platform's edge. She landed softly on the mats below, smiling with joy. The citizens erupted into cheers. The empress felt tears of pride in her eyes. Word of Leora's flight spread quickly throughout the empire. Citizens who had once doubted her ability now spoke of her with admiration and hope. The engineers who had watched Evan work shared their respect for the human's patience and creativity. The palace felt alive with excitement. Leora's success had become a symbol of perseverance, courage, and the power of belief. She realized that her journey had inspired others to see possibility where they had once seen limits. Evan continued to guide Leora, preparing her for higher flights and longer glides. Each day, her strength and confidence grew. She learned to trust her wings, her body, and herself. She had discovered that flight was not only a skill but a journey of courage, patience, and effort. The human had taught her that even when others gave up, persistence and trust could achieve the impossible. The night fell over the empire, casting a calm glow over the palace towers. Leora rested in her chamber, feeling the gentle ache of practiced wings. She thought of the day's glides, the encouragement from Evan, and the pride of her mother. She realized that flight was no longer a distant dream but a growing reality. She understood that every effort, every small lift, and every moment of patience had brought her closer to the sky. The empress stood nearby, watching her daughter with quiet pride. She realized that Leora's journey was not only about flying but about teaching the empire a lesson in hope, determination, and courage. The human who had guided her had shown them all that even the impossible could become possible. The princess had lifted herself not only with wings but with heart and spirit. The story of Princess Leora and the stubborn human, Evan Hale, continued to spread through the empire. Each day brought new glides, higher lifts, and growing hope. The citizens watched eagerly, inspired by her courage. The palace felt alive with excitement and anticipation. The Fox Empire was learning that strength could come in many forms, and that even the smallest spark of persistence could grow into a shining flame. And so, the princess who had once been unable to lift her wings now soared with hope, determination, and courage. She inspired her people, guided by the human who refused to give up. The sky above the Fox Empire was no longer a distant dream but a space of possibility, waiting for her to rise higher each day. The day was bright and clear over the Fox Empire. The air shimmered with anticipation as Princess Leora stood at the highest training platform she had ever climbed. Her wings stretched wide, their golden feathers catching the sunlight. She had grown strong, patient, and confident. She had learned to trust her own strength and the careful guidance of Evan Hale, the human who had refused to give up on her when others had. Today, she would attempt her first true flight outside the palace hall, a glide across the palace gardens and down toward the river beyond. Evan stood beside her, calm and steady as always. He had prepared her for this moment with weeks of exercises, adjustments to the support device, and careful guidance. "Remember," he said softly, "trust your wings. Feel the air. Let your strength guide you. You are ready." Leora nodded. She felt the wind brushing against her feathers, the warmth of the sun on her fur, and the thrill of possibility in her chest. She was ready. The Empress watched from a balcony, her heart swelling with pride. She had seen her daughter struggle, fail, and grow discouraged. She had watched her daughter's spirit rise again under Evan's patient guidance. Today, she witnessed something extraordinary. Leora had grown not only stronger in body but braver in spirit. The palace staff gathered quietly, and citizens who had heard of Leora's progress now watched from below, their eyes wide with hope and excitement. Leora took a deep breath and leapt from the platform. For the first time, the wind fully caught her wings. She rose high above the gardens, gliding smoothly. The feeling was unlike anything she had experienced before. She felt the air flowing beneath her wings, lifting her, supporting her, guiding her movements. She flapped gently, adjusting her direction with precision. The palace garden stretched below her like a mosaic of green and gold. The river sparkled in the sunlight, winding like a silver ribbon through the empire. She felt free, exhilarated, and alive. Evan followed carefully on the ground, watching her closely. He saw the control and confidence in her movements. She was no longer uncertain or fearful. She was a princess learning to master her own strength. He felt quiet pride, knowing that every small adjustment, every careful lesson, and every moment of patience had led to this. Leora's courage and persistence had turned her wings into instruments of freedom. The palace staff gasped as Leora glided gracefully over the gardens, performing gentle turns and dips. Citizens below cheered quietly, moved by the sight. Leora smiled, feeling their admiration, but she focused on the flight itself. She felt the rhythm of the wind, the balance of her wings, and the joy of moving freely. She realized that flight was not only about lifting her body but about lifting her spirit. Each moment in the air was a victory, a symbol of persistence and courage. The Empress felt tears welling in her eyes. Her daughter had risen, not just physically but emotionally. She had learned to believe in herself, to trust her strength, and to embrace hope. The Empress realized that Evan had done more than repair wings. He had nurtured courage, patience, and determination. He had reminded them all that strength could come from effort, care, and belief, not just birthright or skill. Leora's glide carried her toward the river. The wind lifted her higher as she flapped gently, adjusting her direction. She felt exhilaration in every movement. She remembered the long weeks of practice, the small lifts, the falls, and the moments of doubt. Each challenge had taught her something new. Each effort had strengthened her wings and her spirit. Now, she soared with confidence, guided by her own determination and the support of the human who had believed in her. Evan watched as Leora approached the edge of the palace gardens, preparing for a gentle descent. He had ensured that she was ready for this moment. The support device was adjusted perfectly, allowing her to glide naturally while still strengthening her muscles. He felt a quiet thrill of pride as he saw her control and precision. Leora's confidence and courage had grown beyond anything he had imagined. She had embraced every lesson, every challenge, and every moment of guidance with patience and determination. Leora tilted slightly and began her descent toward the river. The wind moved beneath her wings, supporting her glide. She landed softly on a grassy bank, her feet touching the ground lightly, her wings folding naturally behind her. The crowd erupted into cheers. Citizens clapped and waved, and the palace staff exchanged looks of awe and admiration. Leora's heart swelled with pride. She realized that she had flown beyond the palace walls, beyond the training hall, and into the open sky. She had risen above doubt, fear, and limitation. The Empress approached her daughter, her eyes shining. "You have done it, my child," she said softly. "You have risen, not just with your wings but with your courage. You have shown the Empire what strength and persistence can achieve." Leora smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. She realized that her journey had not only been about flight but about discovering her own resilience and potential. Evan approached, a small smile on his face. "You controlled yourself perfectly," he said. "You felt the air, guided your wings, and trusted yourself. You have learned to fly, not just in the sky, but in your own spirit." Leora felt warmth in her chest. She realized that he had been right. Flight was not only physical. It was courage, patience, trust, and effort. Every small lift, every fall, and every moment of practice had brought her to this point. She felt gratitude for his guidance, admiration for his persistence, and pride in her own growth. Citizens of the Empire approached Leora with cautious excitement. They wanted to witness her flight, to learn from her courage, and to celebrate her achievement. Leora greeted them with gentle smiles and encouragement. She realized that her success could inspire others to believe in themselves, to try again, and to rise above challenges. She understood that flight was not only personal but a symbol of hope for everyone who had watched her journey. Engineers who had doubted Evan's methods now approached him respectfully. They spoke of his patience, careful observation, and dedication. They admitted that his guidance had been crucial to Leora's success. Evan accepted their respect quietly, knowing that the princess's effort and determination had been the true force behind the flight. Leora had embraced every lesson, every challenge, and every moment of patience with courage and resolve. The Empress declared a day of celebration in honor of Princess Leora's first successful flight. Citizens gathered throughout the city, sharing stories of her courage and determination. The Fox Empire felt alive with hope. Leora's flight had become a symbol of persistence, strength, and belief in oneself. The story of the stubborn human and the fallen princess who rose had inspired the entire empire. Leora continued to practice each day, gradually increasing the distance and height of her flights. She learned to navigate through wind currents, to adjust her movements with precision, and to glide effortlessly over the palace gardens and rivers. Each flight strengthened her wings and her spirit. She realized that the sky was not a limit but a space of endless possibility. She felt the joy of freedom in every movement, the thrill of mastery in every glide, and the pride of achievement in every landing. Evan worked alongside her, offering guidance when needed, adjusting the device for optimal support, and encouraging her to explore new heights. He never pressured her, never rushed her, and never doubted her potential. He understood that true growth came from trust, patience, and careful effort. Leora had learned these lessons and embraced them fully. She had become more than a princess learning to fly. She had become a symbol of courage, determination, and hope. The Empress watched her daughter with quiet pride. She realized that the journey had transformed Leora in ways that went beyond flight. She had gained confidence, patience, courage, and the ability to inspire others. The Fox Empire had learned that even the impossible could be achieved through persistence, guidance, and belief. The princess who had once been unable to lift her wings now soared above the world, a living testament to strength and determination. As the sun set over the empire, painting the sky with gold and pink, Leora stood on a hill overlooking the palace. Her wings were strong, her heart light, and her spirit free. She spread her wings fully, feeling the wind lift her once more. She leapt into the air and glided gracefully, higher and farther than ever before. She felt exhilaration, freedom, and the pure joy of flight. She knew that the journey would continue, that there would always be new heights to reach and new challenges to face. But she also knew that she was ready. She had learned to rise, to trust herself, and to embrace the sky. Evan watched from below, a quiet smile on his face. He knew that Leora had achieved more than physical flight. She had discovered courage, patience, trust, and determination. She had risen above doubt and limitation. The Fox Empire had witnessed her transformation and learned a powerful lesson: even the weakest wings could soar with guidance, effort, and belief. The Empire celebrated her achievement, but Leora knew that the sky was only the beginning. She had learned that strength was not measured by wings alone but by heart, mind, and spirit. She had learned that persistence, courage, and trust could overcome any obstacle. And she had learned that hope, once sparked, could spread across an entire empire, lifting every heart that believed in possibility. And so, the princess who had once been grounded now soared with confidence. She inspired her people, guided by the human who refused to give up. The sky belonged to her, and through her courage, it belonged to all who dared to rise. The Fox Empire had learned a truth that would last for generations: with patience, determination, and belief, even the impossible could become reality. The story of Leora and Evan became legend. It was told to every child, whispered in classrooms, celebrated in songs, and remembered in every corner of the empire. It was not just a story of wings, but a story of heart, spirit, and the power of refusing to give up. And above all, it was a story that showed the world that humans, with their persistence and courage, could change lives, lift spirits, and inspire greatness across even the most distant stars. Princess Leora spread her wings once more, feeling the wind, the sun, and the freedom of the sky. She rose higher than ever, knowing that the journey of flight and hope would continue. And in that moment, she was not only a princess, not only a fox, not only a student of flight. She was a symbol, a beacon, and a promise that even the smallest spark of belief could grow into a mighty flame. The sky belonged to her, and through her, it belonged to everyone who dared to dream.